The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Hope everybody had a good week. I hope if you got a chance to listen to yesterday's episode with my man, Tariq Kadura, aka Joey Nobody, I just realized he never answered why he calls himself Joey Nobody. I started out with that question, and then, dude, that guy's a live wire, man. He was a live wire. He just kind of moved on to something else. I'll get that answer from him and report back to you, and I'm curious myself. But anyway, all right, listen, kind of a low-key episode today, but I did want to talk a couple things, and then I'm going to jump into some different topics that I promise to cover more this year. Couple quick sort of, just top-line things. They finally did announce a ceasefire in terms of the Israel and Hamas war, quarrel, whatever you want to call it. I'm really not going to talk about it much because I think it's kind of nonsense. I think it basically will not lead to anything really, and it'll probably get fallen back on here pretty shortly. I think this is all just kind of posturing before Trump takes office. And it actually reminded me of, if any of you remember back to like 1979, 80, 81 with the Iran hostage situation where there were like 52 Americans that were held hostage for 444 days, which ironically coincides with the age difference between my brother and I. We are 444 days apart. I've said that before. That's actually totally true. We are literally 4 years, 4 months, and 4 days apart. Our mom likes to tell us that all the time. But anyway, it just gave me those vibes because if you remember back to that time, they basically released the hostages from Jimmy Carter's administration, literally the day of Ronald Reagan's inauguration. So anyway, I think that stuff is, again, a script. History repeats itself. I'll talk more about, what I think this whole Hamas-Gaza war really has been another time. But again, they did have a ceasefire. I hope that does stick, mainly because I am tired of seeing innocent women and children being killed. Okay, secondly, President Biden gave his farewell address. I'm not going to really play you anything from it. If you did not watch it, obviously you can see a bunch of clips and the main clips on the Deep Shallow Dive Instagram page. But fundamentally, the big takeaway was he ended it with basically addressing the nation and warning the nation about the growing ultra-wealthy oligarchy. And obviously, he's basically talking about Trump, Elon Musk, the whole PayPal mafia, David Sachs, Peter Thiel, all those guys. And, I'm not going to say there's nothing to that. There absolutely is. I don't want to brush over that. But at the same time, I also think there was a ultra wealthy oligarchy already among the Democrat Party and really among that uniparty that I've talked about, the Bush family into the Obama family. Or no, the Bush family, into the Clinton family, into the Obama family, into the Biden family, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, like all these uniparty people. I think that ultra wealthy oligarchy has existed among politicians and then, among people we don't know about, the Rockefeller family, JP Morgan, Chase, the Rothschild family. You hear these names if you're paying attention, but that stuff all is real. It does exist. So I think there's an ultra wealthy oligarchy. The question is, does this ultra wealthy oligarchy that is rooted on the left and has been called, basically the establishment, the deep state? Here's where it's going to get scary, is if the establishment / deep state partners up with this new, band of oligarch billionaires. And I'm talking about Elon Musk's crew. I do not trust Elon Musk. I think the dude's a double, triple agent. I don't think he's all he's cracked up to be. I don't even think he's as smart as he's cracked up to be. I think he's had a lot of help. There's been a lot of strategic placement with him. I just do. I really do. And my opinion of him has changed over time. Originally I thought he was, the entrepreneur's entrepreneur, but now I'm realizing there's so much more to that. So anyway, that was President Biden's speech. Again, if you want to see a couple clips of it, I did post those on the Deep Shallow Dive Instagram page. Another thing that was interesting that came up is the FDA banned a very controversial bright red dye that is found in candy, drinks, snacks, and all this other stuff because studies. Now, this is what's insane about this. After 35 years, studies linked it to cancer in animals. So they've decided to cancel it or to ban it, officially ban it after 35 years. And it's basically called red dye number 3. And it was approved for permanent use in food and ingested drugs more than 50 years ago. So after 50 years of us putting this stuff into our bodies, now they have all of the sudden banned it. Obviously, you've got this whole, Make America Healthy Again thing that's coming. You've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that pretty soon will go in front of the Senate to see if he gets confirmed for that big job. So anyway, again, am I happy about it? Of course. I think that something like that probably does cause harm. I just find it insane that it's taken 50 years in order to basically say, oh, now we can't have this in any of our foods. And by the way, that red dye number 5 or number 3, whichever one it was banned in cosmetics a long time ago. Let me see if I can figure out. It was 1990. So in 1990, they banned red dye number 3 in red dye number 3 in cosmetics and non-oral medications, including pain relief creams, after a study showed that it caused cancer when it was eaten by rats. Holy mackerel. So in 1990, they banned it in cosmetics and non-oral medications. So basically things you put on your skin, on your face, on your body that gets absorbed because it caused cancer when it was eaten by rats. But think about this. They let it be ingested by us in food for another 35 years. It's been 35 years since 1990. And so they banned it for putting it on your body, but they didn't ban it for basically consuming it in your body. How insane is that? All right. Anyway, I'm going to take a break from the geopolitics stuff. I'm going to stick on the health theme for the rest of this episode. So I do want to talk about sugar. I really do. I want to talk about sugar. I honestly think that sugar is literally the number one killer of humanity and human beings. I'm not even kidding. When it comes to your health, that is. And I really think that sugar is in so much and people don't realize it. And it's kind of, if anything was the silent killer, it would be sugar. There was an amazing article that came out years back in the New York Times where they did a study where they basically got rats addicted to cocaine and then they got the same rats addicted to sugar. So they addicted them to cocaine and sugar at the same time. And then when they gave the rats the choice of cocaine and sugar, literally 100% of the time, the rats picked sugar. So they picked sugar over cocaine. So the moral of that story is if you currently are doing cocaine, switch over to sugar. I'm just kidding. All right, let's get into this sugar thing a little bit. And really, I want to talk about how giving up sugar and basically trying to remove it from all of the things you eat in as much as you can, obviously, how it can really change your body, and it can really change your body, within days for some people. I notice this myself. I really do. Like it's when I am hyper sensitive or hyper aware, I should say, of my sugar intake. And I'm talking about like everything I buy in the grocery store, I will absolutely turn it around. I'll look at the nutrition facts, I'll look at the supplement facts. And if pretty much all of the carbohydrate makeup is made up of sugar, and you'll see it, it'll be listed in the nutrition facts. You know that that's all added sugar, and so you don't want to buy those products, you know. And I'll give you a perfect example. I mean, I used to put, French creamer in my coffee in the mornings, and I loved it. It was so tasty. It made my coffee taste wonderful. And then I realized, like, oh my God, look at how much sugar is in these French creamers. And even the non-sugar ones, obviously they're putting, other flavoring in there like sucralose or, other artificial things they can call it sugar free, but obviously they're making it, flavored with artificial things that almost mimic sugar. Now, supposedly those ingredients are not as bad. And I say that because, again, supposedly, honestly, I don't really know the truth on this. They do not require your body to release insulin. And so if your body doesn't have to release insulin, that's supposed to be a much healthier way to process the added sugars that come into your body. I'm going to do a whole separate episode on that, but fundamentally, one big takeaway of today is, start looking at the nutrition facts label on the back of your foods. I mean, really do that. And if you see very little fiber to no fiber in something, and you see that it's all added sugars, that's probably something you don't want to put into your body. All right, let me read you this. It says, most of us know that eating too much sugar isn't good for us, with its consumption being linked to health dangers such as obesity, fatty liver disease, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Sugar is high on most of our lists of vices worth giving up. But it turns out that reducing sugar intake not only helps you avoid the harms of overconsumption. That's my big problem, man. I just overconsume. My portion control needs to get better. But it can also bring about surprising upsides that you won't have to wait long to benefit from. These include improved mood, skin health, dental hygiene, cognitive function, and even athletic performance, says Amy Goodson, a nutritionist and registered dietitian based in Dallas. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the different kinds of sugar. So, the first thing you really need to understand is that, not all sugar is bad for you. And again, obviously, I'm talking about the sugar that is natural in fruits, like in an orange or in a banana or something like that. So there is a big difference between natural sugars and added sugars. So natural sugars like glucose in bread, fructose in fruit. So when sugar is in bread, it's called glucose. When it is in fruit, it's called fructose. And also many vegetables, obviously, it's called have some sugar, although vegetables don't have as much sugar. That's why I try to eat more vegetables than fruit. And then in milk, it's referred to as lactose. And again, these are naturally occurring in those food sources. And so those are the ones that are not only not bad for you, but they provide energy, and they also offer like sweetness and flavor to basically, entice when you're eating. And then obviously a lot of those foods, the fruits and vegetables particularly, they contain vitamins, minerals, other nutrients, and things that you need. And also, and this really applies to when you eat fruits, I'm talking about like peeling an orange and eating the full orange versus maybe squeezing an orange into juice. When you eat the full orange, you've got that roughage, and so you've got the fiber element, and so that helps slow down the release in sugar, and it offsets, that effect on your body. But again, one thing I want to say, and this is my own personal opinion, ironically, among the Persian culture, eating fruit is like practically mandatory, and like they take away your Persian card if you don't eat fruit. But man, some of my family friends and even my mom to an extent, they just eat too much fruit. Like it's insane how much fruit they eat at at one sitting. And a lot of times in the Persian culture, especially, they eat a lot of fruit at night. And so I'm not really a fan of that. Again, even though it's natural sugar coming from fruit, I don't think that's a good idea to eat that at night. And, basically right before you're kind of, slowing down your metabolism when you sleep. So here's a little tip that I do. I start to try to eat my fruit during the day. So a lot of times I'll have fruit either for lunch or with my lunch. And so that way, even though it's natural sugar, I'm giving my body, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours sometimes to basically digest and process the sugar that I consumed at, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, something like that, versus eating it later at night, which again, a lot of people will eat it after dinner. So I would recommend, if you could, maybe switch up your fruit intake to during the day if fruit is part of your diet. All right, let's delve deeper into the bad stuff, and that's the added sugars. So added sugars are the sugars that are introduced to foods or beverages during the processing, cooking, or at the table, says Goodson, our gal Amy Goodson from before. So these are shown as added sugars on Foods Nutrition Facts label. And the FDA actually recommends limiting the amount of added sugars to 50 grams a day. Man, that's a lot. God damn, that's like maybe 2 cans of Coke, because I think each can of Coke has 33 grams. I would not. I definitely do not eat that much added sugar. If sugar, that's a lot of sugar, man. I do not want to take in that much. I would highly recommend you cut that FDA recommendation down to like 10 grams of added sugar a day if you can. So really what happens with, all of this extra sugar that we take in is, for the most part, it ends up getting turned into fat because your body isn't able to convert it to energy and use it. And so it ends up getting converted into fat. And really, and again, I totally believe this. I believe that most of the autoimmune diseases that people have, I really think they're all because of probably excess sugar intake, and they're not even realizing it. They're absolutely not even realizing it. I'm talking about things like Crohn's disease, multiple sclerosis, even high blood pressure. All of this stuff really also then leads to, an increased risk in tons of different cancers. And again, in a very simplified expression, and I want to do a real deep dive on cancer as well. But fundamentally, when you think about a cancerous cell, it's basically a cell in your body that's kind of either just mutated or it's just been eroded somehow. And so instead of operating normally, it starts to operate in a negative manner. Now, again, I'm going to do a full-blown deep dive episode on cancerous cells so we can all understand that. Maybe I'll even try to get somebody on to talk about that. But I personally, again, I think the number one cause of cancerous cells is a diet that is heavy in added sugar and, quite frankly, even sugar overall. And like I said, even the natural sugars that come from fruit. That's one reason why when I was big into my fresh vegetable juicing craze, I would recommend to people, as part of the concept of being a quote unquote everyday juicer, was to always juice 80% vegetables, 20% fruit, meaning that the only fruits I would really add to my fresh vegetable juices would be like one beet or one apple in order to give it some sweetness. But the reason why you don't want to necessarily juice fruits is kind of what I talked about before. You're basically removing all of the fibrous product and you're ending up with basically liquid sugar. And again, yes, it's fructose. Yes, it's natural. It's from that fruit, but still in liquid form, it's going to make your blood insulin level spike because your body's going to be like, holy mackerel, this is a lot of sugar. We need to release a lot of insulin in order to try to process this. And that's the stuff that kind of gets people's bodies out of whack. It leads to, like I said, autoimmune situations. And honestly, I personally think that stuff leads to a tremendous amount of, the cancer issues that people have. So again, I will definitely deep dive into insulin and into all of that stuff in another episode. But again, I really want today to be all about getting sugar on your radar and making you fully cognizant of how much sugar you're taking in on a daily basis. All right, let me read this part because I do want to reinforce it. It says that a 2023 BMC medicine study also shows that even a 5% increase in added sugars comes with a 6% higher risk of heart disease and a 10% higher risk of stroke. Such harms occur in part because any consumed sugar that isn't used for energy is stored as fat. That's kind of what I was saying earlier, which results in increased weight gain and insulin resistance, leading to diabetes, obesity, and associated adverse outcomes, says Aline Hahn, a clinical dietitian and certified diabetes care and education specialist at Stanford Healthcare. So, the weight gain and all of that, that really does come into play when you are not cognizant of how much sugar your body's taking in because you're not converting it to energy and you're not burning it off. And so you end up basically turning it into fat. And that actually is kind of what I'm talking about when I say like people that eat like a gigantic plate of fruit at 7 o'clock at night. They're not going to burn that off because probably after they eat their fruit, chances are they're not even going to go for a walk. They're just going to sit and watch TV. Go to bed 2 hours later. And so all of that sugar that did not get, converted into energy basically will get converted into fat. The other thing is that added sugars also feed the bad bacteria in your gut. And so this can again lead to chronic inflammation. Inflammation is the root of all evil. And that is just like, feeling bloated and that swelling that is happening inside your body. And so that really can affect your gut bacteria and create, an imbalance with the healthy organisms that are in your gut. This has been linked to a host of mental health issues, says Uma Nadu, a nutritional psychiatrist practicing in Massachusetts and the author of This Is Your Brain on Food. Oh, that's funny. This is your brain on food. Remember that whole campaign? Where's my Gen Xers out there? And maybe my baby boomers too, where it was like, this is your brain on drugs. And they would fry an egg. So that means your brain is fried on drugs. Don't do drugs. Drugs are bad. All right, next thing is I do want to tell you, and I swear I've noticed this with myself as well. One of the biggest improvement areas you'll notice when you really cut out sugar from your bloodstream is that that sugar can no longer bind with lipids or proteins like collagen and elastin. And so you'll end up having better skin. You really will. And your wrinkles and you'll have a loss of elasticity. And so I really God, it was years ago that I really started becoming cognizant of my own personal sugar intake. And I can honestly say, I have absolutely noticed it's not that I had bad skin. I really never had bad skin, although I did have acne in high school and it was bad. It was not good. I think like my sophomore and junior year, I have to give a shout out to my brother. He got some Retin A cream for me. I don't even know how he got it. I think he stole it from Bernie Schulman's when he worked there or something. Did you steal that from me? Oh my God, if you stole that from me, that's even more amazing. But anyway, I started taking Retin A in high school and yeah, that cleared up my acne. Little side note on that. I really did. My acne was bad. Oh my God, probably, I think my junior year in high school, it was the worst. And man, I was super self-conscious about it. I really was. And I'm not really a self-conscious person, but I was very self-conscious about my acne to where it caused me to, definitely not have the game with the ladies that I evolved into when I got rid of my acne in college. I don't want to say I peaked in college, but I came into my own in college. I will say that. I was cool in high school, but I feel like I was the man in college. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I know a lot of my friends from college are listening, so they can chime in on that. I hope a few of you got a good laugh at that one. All right, so now let's end with some tips for keeping sugar intake down. All right. So let me read you this. To reap the benefits of giving up sugar, start by identifying where you may be consuming too many added sugars. By far, the most important step is to avoid soda and other sugar-sweetened beverages. So again, remember, and the reason why avoiding sugary beverages is so important is because, again, remember, you don't have the fiber to counteract that and to kind of like soak it up a little bit. And so when you're taking in sugar in liquid form, actually very similar to Boost liquid vitamins, it bypasses your digestive system, gets right into your bloodstream. And again, in the case of sugar, it wreaks havoc. It absolutely wreaks havoc. It causes the inflammation and all of the negative things that we talked about. And just so you know, if there's anybody out there that still drinks Coke and stuff, and by the way, I'm not saying don't have it on a every once in a while. I do enjoy a Coke Zero every once in a while. I'm not going to lie about that. It just kind of, I don't know, hits the spot for me. But I'm talking about if you're taking in Coca-Cola or Pepsi every single day. Remember, a single 20-ounce bottle of Coca-Cola contains 65 grams of added sugar. Holy mackerel. 30% more than most people's entire daily limit. So anyway, cut all that stuff out. So this dietitian, Messmer, says it is also imperative to get in the habit of checking food labels for added sugar content. That's what we talked about before. She also suggests gradually reducing the amount of sugar used in recipes or replacing it with spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, vanilla, or almond extract. Actually, man, I love spices. I really spice up pretty much everything I eat. And I use turmeric, I use cayenne, I use black pepper, and then I use crushed red pepper as well. And I love adding spices to my foods. And quite frankly, maybe I should do an episode on spices. I find they speed up my metabolism. I really do. I think spices, especially things like crushed red pepper and even black pepper and turmeric. Turmeric is supposed to be kind of a wonder spice and tremendously reduce inflammation. But I find all of those things collectively, when I consistently add them to food, I don't know. I feel like my metabolism is sped up. And the biggest thing is I just do not feel bloated. I never feel bloated anymore. I always feel, honestly firm and lean and like good, and I don't feel bloated. And obviously when I like squeeze around my ankles or squeeze around my wrists and things like that, even your face, like even if you squeeze your cheeks and all that, I mean, if you're feeling a lot of squishy, then you absolutely are bloated and you are retaining water. That's what that is. You're retaining water, and that water retention is causing inflammation, and you want to drain that from your body. And honestly, I think spices are one of the ways that you can naturally drain that, that water inflammation. Alrighty, holy mackerel. I can't even believe it's 28 minutes. You know what? I will end this here. So anyway, switch it up, health episode. This is what I'm going to start trying to do more of. I really want to do more of this. Next week, we'll do, get in some AI things. I actually noticed this is pretty interesting. Google in my Gmail. If any of you use Gmail, let me know if this comes up for you. But all of a sudden in my Gmail, I saw my page on my laptop divided into threes now. And there was a third column that looks like they have incorporated Gemini into actual Gmail. And so, for example, when I was looking at my email from whoever, you can have Gemini on the right-hand side of your screen, and you can press a button and it'll summarize the email for you. I think it can help craft a reply for you. So it looks like Google is really starting to roll out Gemini, which again, Gemini is their version of ChatGPT, but they're starting to roll out Gemini into their suite of tools. And that's definitely a competitive advantage that they have over, OpenAI and ChatGPT. I think Microsoft with their Copilot is going to do the exact same thing. But anyway, for those of you that use Gmail, whether you're using Google Workspace for a business account, or I think even, personal Gmail, like your own, your name Gmail account, take a look and see. I didn't test this on the phone yet, but if you are on your laptop or your desktop computer and you go into your Gmail, see if that Gemini comes up it's going to be on the right-hand side. All right, everybody, that's it. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Catch up on this week's episodes if you didn't get a chance to listen to everything. Keep the feedback coming in. Call a spade, and I will talk to you soon.
That was a great way to end it.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.